Hi friends, what's up? I'm Ethan, and this is Tom. And look, we're kind of a little not matchy matchy, but like our colors are not complementary. So I'm kind of digging that. Welcome to this webinar today. The topic, this is part one of two, is this is your college essay and application kickoff. Thanks for being with us here at the end of your year. Today we're focused on the personal statement, and this is going to be kind of like an introduction to how to get started on your personal statement. Tom, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. So my name's Tom Campbell. We have like a formal slide with our
My
like
bad, my bad.
professional
You know what? My bad.
bios.
Let me just actually use the dang slides, Tom. My bad.
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
can do better. I can do better. Here it is. Look at this cool, nice slide that Tom created. Um, Part two is going to be happening on Thursday, 48 hours from now, on creating not just your personal statement, but your whole application. Quick housekeeping. Yes, it's being recorded. You can get captions. If you get questions, throw them in the Q&A so they don't get lost in the chat because we have a few other folks that are chatting in the chat. And if you're watching this live, we've got a live session survey that's happening, and you can get, again, you can get like a couple. We're going to give away copies of my book. We're going to give away seats in my summer course and some AirPods. So, yeah, fill out the live form. You can do that while we're doing our intro here. And here's me and my wife and daughter. I went to Northwestern. I've been working on this college essay things since 2003, since well before you all were born. And our website is known for like tons of free resources. You're here because you've probably been on that website. Other fun facts about me, I moved around a whole bunch. I grew up in Spain, Ecuador, and Colombia, and I heart basketball. Yes, even still. That's it. That's me. And I'm the college essay guy. Tom.
All right. So someone asked in the chat, I forget who it was, Chloe G asked, how are you both feeling? I'm feeling good as heck, to quote Lizzo-ish, but the G-rated version. So my name's Tom. I have been with College Essay Guy now. I will be going into year four. It's fourth cycle, I think, which is yeah, I believe so. Um, Maybe a year off. But things are just flying by here because it's just so splendorific. So my background, as you can see from this slide, is that I have been working mostly in college admissions and college counseling for the bulk of my career. Prior to working at College Essay Guy, I worked at two different institutions, College of the Holy Cross, which is my alma mater, and Pomona College, which is in Southern California, highly selective school about an hour outside of Los Angeles, part of the Claremont colleges. And then I also worked as a counselor in a high school, working with students applying to a wide range of colleges and universities. And I've been at College Essay Guy helping Ethan with webinars, blogs, YouTube videos, podcasts, working with students one-on-one to try and bring, as the motto at College Essay Guy is, more ease, purpose, and joy to the process. So super happy to be here. I'm playing a little bit of a co-pilot today. I'm not the college essay guy, I'm a college essay guy, and I'll be mostly lurking around in the Q&A box, answering your questions throughout the session. So Ethan's going to be leading the charge today, and I'm looking forward to helping as the hour goes along.
Yeah, and that we usually get to like 50 plus questions, y'all. So feel free to pepper Tom with questions and we'll see how he can keep up, if he can keep up with y'all. Free stuff. I've got a YouTube channel. We've got a YouTube channel. Tom and I put out videos almost weekly. I put a little squiggly line because it's mostly weekly. A podcast. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. Most recently, we've been talking about AI use in the college application process. And we've just recently transitioned into a What Colleges Want series where we're interviewing like deans and directors of admission and assistant deans and directors of admission, talking about the admission nutrients, which I'll get into in a little bit. What are they looking for? And if you're a counselor on this call, we heart you so much. We've got everything for you. And these slides will be shared afterwards. And yes, we're on the Insta. And do you guys remember Facebook? Because we're on that too. If you're interested
Sorry,
in,
real quick introduction or interruption, just because there are a few students wondering about the survey that you got the link to. It
yeah,
says as of January 2024, I am a blank. Should be January 2025. So you did catch an outdated text. So please answer that based on the current year that you are in high school. That would be the most helpful. Thank you.
thank you. We offer free essay and application support for low-income students. If you are a low-income student, you can apply via collegeessayguy.com/matchletters. Check this out. If you apply by June 1st, you can start working with a coach even this summer. And it's a great program. And we've got some amazing counselors standing by. So here's what we're up to today. We're going to talk to you about the purpose of the personal statement. I'm briefly going to go over that and then get into what are some of the things that colleges are looking for. What are some topics that, according to admission officers, you should maybe avoid because they maybe won't help you stand out as much. I'm going to talk to you about two different structures you can use for your personal statement. We're going to look at two awesome examples. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit for like 2-3 minutes about my courses that are coming up this summer and Q&A on pretty much whatever you want to ask about. That's going to be happening throughout. So feel free to throw those questions into the Q&A. And then we'll give away all the stuff. All right. What's the purpose of the personal statement? Look at this lovely image here. I mean, this is like better than most stock images, I think. If you have to just distill it into like a phrase, it's to demonstrate the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're going to bring with you to a college campus. So I'll say that again. You're trying to show the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're bringing with you to a college campus. In particular, what kind of community member are you going to be? So that's sort of the big picture. There's other stuff in here that you can read. I'm not going to read the whole slide, but this is really your chance to show who you are beyond your grades, your test scores, all these kinds of things. And I think it's most relevant, the personal statement's most relevant when they're trying to differentiate you from someone else with a similar profile. So you've got a 3.7, so-and-so else has a 3.7. You've got pretty good extracurriculars, they've got pretty good extracurriculars. What's going to help set you apart? You've got a 1300 on the SAT, they've got a 1300 on the SAT, or 1500 or whatever it is. It's helping you differentiate you when you have, when you're with students that are in your similar, profile. And that's what I mean by profile. Some qualities that lead to a great piece of personal writing. We're looking for values, which we'll do a little exercise around in just a little bit. In other words, what do you really care about deeply? Is it social justice? Is it the environment? Is it your family? Is it efficiency? Is it technology, science? What do you care deeply about? And then insights, like not just like what is the thing you care about, but why do you care about it? Are there little moments where you can give us some information about you that, I don't know, might surprise us, that isn't obvious from elsewhere in your application, and that might set you apart from other people who are applying to the same college? Vulnerability is something you can do in your personal statement, which is to say, revealing parts of yourself that are actually personal, that reveal things about your heart and the way your brain works, not just like, again, the numbers. And then craft, like, is it clear that you've revised this over several drafts and not just like dashed it off in a single night? Which, if you're here right now in May, bless you, I'm preaching to the choir here. Thank you for being here. You've got time to craft your application and essays in a way that'll help you stand out. But if you were to just use these qualities, you might write a great piece of personal writing, but you're going to want to include some of these qualities. And these are what we call the college admission nutrients. See current podcast for more, collegeessayguy.com/podcast. But these are the things that Tom and I did a big survey of basically 300 colleges. And we looked at what are the qualities that consistently come up in colleges' websites, in their mission, in their vision, in their marketing. What are they looking for? So here's some of the qualities in no particular order that colleges are looking for. And I want you to consider here early on that somewhere in your application, you're hoping to maybe weave these qualities in. So first is intellectual curiosity. What are you a nerd for? And do you go deep on subjects? If so, what are those subjects and why do you go deep on them? Second is service to others, or what we call community impact. So beyond yourself, do you care about others, and have you done something to potentially solve problems, whether locally, in your family, in your school or community? Or do you think globally in terms of service? And one that students sometimes forget about, I'll sometimes look at an application and feel like, oh, this is a really strong student. They're obviously really smart, but how do they work with others? That's something that sometimes students forget to weave in. How are you as a collaborator? That's something that's, I think, really, really important. Who are you on the team when it comes to bringing in different perspectives and in terms of what your superpowers are? Leadership or initiative. So leadership is, it could be a role that you play in a particular club or organization, or it could be like taking initiative to you recognize a problem and then like doing something about it. And then there's something called consistent engagement, which is basically, is there something that you've been involved with that you've been consistent with over several, at least months, but maybe hopefully several years? So if you, I know that's a lot to sort of be like, oh my gosh, that's like, you just gave us 9 qualities, but don't worry. I'm going to give you some examples so you can see what these look like. But this is going to create a great piece of personal writing. This is what's going to help it be personal writing specifically for the college admissions, the college application process. Okay. Now, when it comes to thinking about topics, which we're going to brainstorm in a few minutes, here are some that I would consider avoiding for as your main personal statement topic, which is to say like the primary thing that you're focused on. So, for example, common extracurricular activities. There are so many students each year that focus on things like hashtag sports and, the violin or, common instruments, common clubs. And we've just seen it so much that it can be hard to stand out. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't mention clubs? No, you should definitely mention them in your activities list, in your supplemental essays, and even briefly in your personal statement. But if you're going to make that your main personal statement and be like, here's my passion for soccer, chances are they've read a here's my passion for soccer essay. So it needs to be like the best, soccer essay ever. And so it's just going to be easier to stand out if you have a topic that's slightly more uncommon, which again, we'll brainstorm in a minute. Mission trips. These are less common since the pandemic, but it's like a student going to another country, meeting some other, young folks and doing something good for them, like building a house or, some kind of volunteer project. And like I said, this has become less popular, but it's one that can be kind of cringe in some situations and often involves someone like recognizing their privilege in a particular way. So I would avoid, and it's also like it's a common extracurricular activity. So I would avoid it for that as well. Changing schools, there's a part in your application where you can talk about if you change schools. If you make it your main personal statement topic, oftentimes that's one of those challenges that feels a little bit, one, common, because a lot of students do it, and also two, a little bit forced. Sometimes it's like, the narrative is like, it was hard to fit in at first, but then I adapted and maybe in some cases learned a new language or learned to make new friends, etc. And then it worked out, and so there's sort of like a typical narrative there. And so there are just other things that you could say that are probably going to help you stand out more. Many more students lately are writing about anxiety, mental health. We've got a whole blog on this that Diana, if you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat. Diana's our awesome moderator today. Shout out, Diana. There's a lot to be said about mental health. And there's a 3-part podcast on this if you're curious. But in short, there's a part of your application where you can talk about overcoming anxiety or mental health challenges and how that's impacted you and what you've done. And I would put it in that other part of the application and use your personal statement for talking about some other aspect of who you are. And then the final one, which can also go elsewhere in the applications. If you got a bad grade, don't need to devote your whole personal statement to it. You can put it elsewhere in the application. All right. So you're probably wondering, how do I come up with better essay ideas? Because I probably just shot down a bunch of, let me see if there are any questions that have come in. I know Tom's answering a bunch, but let me see. Let's see. Can you write about a book or movie that changed you? Maybe. Oftentimes though, when you write about a book or movie, it's going to be more about the book or the movie, or like if you're writing about a person that inspired you, than about you. Let's see. What if I'm trying to get into psychology and mental health is part of it? That's a good example of how you potentially could weave that in. But I want to encourage you to make it a small part of the story, not like the whole story. Okay. Let's do a little exercise to come up with some ideas. And I'll tell you what I mean by better in just a minute. But oftentimes students think of a story as being like a challenge, overcoming a challenge. And that's one way of writing an essay. That's what we call narrative structure. And the way that usually goes is it's sort of like a cause and effect. This happened, then that led to this other thing happening, which led to this other thing happening. And it's usually kind of like chronological. And that's a totally fine way to write an essay, but it's not the only way. And what I want to spend a little more time on today is telling you about a slightly more unconventional structure that I think anybody can write, honestly. Because I think that not everybody necessarily can or maybe should write a narrative challenges-based essay, just because in many cases, just students haven't gone through the challenges to, to basically warrant sort of like a challenges-based essay. So this other structure is called montage structure. And the way it works is you come up with a particular theme and essentially all of the moments, the details, the stuff that you want to share about yourself is underneath this larger theme. And it gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of like, variety in the essay. And you can talk about lots more other sides of yourself. I say this because the narrative, sometimes if you're focusing on a challenge, you only get to show, I'm gonna like stop sharing my screen for a second. You only get to show in some cases like this narrow part of your life. You don't really get to show the expanse of all of the awesomeness of who you are. So if you're listening to this and you're like, what do you mean the awesomeness of who I am? That's what we're gonna brainstorm a little bit right now. So with montage structure, and a montage basically is just a series of moments, and you're not sharing the whole every single moment. It's kind of like that, moment there that scene in Up. It's not really a scene, it is a montage. It's like 5 minutes where we go through Carl and Ellie's life together. Y'all remember that one? It's like the one that you can't help crying in at the end. And it's the purpose of this is to sort of condense space and time so that you can share, a given message in 3 minutes as opposed to like, whatever, in real time as you actually experience it. So the idea is you have to be really choosy here with what you're deciding to show. And in the case of the personal statement, it's like, what are those, those moments, those examples, those details that are going to help demonstrate the skills, qualities, values, and interests that I want to share with the college. So, like I said, the purpose is again, skills, qualities, values, and interests. Allows you to show lots of sides of yourself. And it helps it feel not random because you're not just like, and I'll give you a bunch of examples in just a minute, but you're not just like brainstorming like, this is the story of my life. You're saying something like, for instance, let's say you pick something that you know a lot about. Like maybe you know a lot about board games. I play a lot of board games myself. So maybe your essay is all about like how board games have taught you important life lessons. And each of those life lessons is something that's going to serve you in college. Or maybe you choose something like a place that you feel at home. Like maybe you're like, coffee shops are like where I'm in my happy place. And you use coffee shops as being like a place where you explore and experience, you show your curiosity because you spend a lot of time falling down YouTube rabbit holes when you're like on your laptop in coffee shops. Or there's something about the way that you're social with strangers and you have this superpower of, I don't know, listening and hearing people. So it could be that your essay topic is like amazing experiences in coffee shops and how it's helped you to develop these skills, qualities, values, and interests that will lead to you being an awesome college community member. So what we're looking for here before we get to the brainstorm is we're looking for topics that are hopefully elastic, which is to say stretchy enough to talk about different sides of you, and if possible, something uncommon. And your essay topic is more likely to stand out, I think, the more uncommon and the more elastic it is. Now, the more elastic it's gonna be more likely to show more sides of yourself. So for instance, if I were to write about Australian history, for me, that would be uncommon, but it would not be very elastic because I don't know much about Australian history and it wouldn't really connect. I mean, I guess I could connect to different sides of me, probably, but it's probably not very elastic. If I were to write about basketball, that's very elastic. I could probably connect it to lots of sides of myself, but it's very common. So hopefully I'm looking for something that's got the combination of uncommon and elasticity. So let me give you an example, and then we'll do a little brainstorm around this. This is a student who took my course, the course that I'm going to talk about that I'm leading this summer, 2 years ago, ended up at some awesome schools. She shows these qualities of values, insight, vulnerability, and craft through her topic, which she brainstormed and landed on escape rooms as her topic. So let me walk you through it. And I'm gonna actually see, can you spot as we go through instances of where she's showing values, insight, vulnerability, and craft? So here's her essay. The United States is under attack. My eyes widen, listening to the words coming from the speaker. The nuclear missile program has been compromised, and you're now locked in the presidential bunker, moments away from war. That doesn't sound good. You have 60 minutes to disarm the missiles. Good luck. The fate of the world is in my hands. The fate of the world. Oh, so first of all, that's like a nice hook, right? Because she's basically getting us to wonder some things like, wait, is the US under attack? What's happening? What's going on? And we're kind of intrigued. And that's what a great hook does, is it raises a question or raises questions in our minds. And by the way, I would just say that's pretty good examples of craft because she's like bringing us into the story. The fate of the world isn't actually in the hands of a 17-year-old girl, I hope. This is just the name of the game when it comes to escape rooms. Now, that's another example of craft because she's not leaving us in the dark too long about what the topic is. She's actually landing us on, hey, here's what we're talking about. She's what I would call orienting us. She says, I first suggested my family attempt one when we started encountering communication issues. Now, they're the tradition that brings us closer, allowing us to learn more about each other in a mind-bending way. However, the lessons I've taken away from escape rooms extend much further than this. Okay, now this is what I call a college essay sentence, in the sense that she's orienting us for the rest of the essay. So the end of the first paragraph intrigues us. And then the end of the second paragraph, she's saying the lessons I've taken away from escape rooms extend much further than this. So she raises a new question, not what's happening, what are we talking about, which she already answered. We're talking about escape rooms. But in this case, how is it that the lessons you've learned from escape rooms extend much further than this? There's also a little vulnerability in here, and there's a little bit of a value in here. Do y'all spot them? There's the value of family and the fact that she had communication issues with her family. Okay, now they're the tradition that brings us closer, which is cool. Yeah. So here's the next paragraph. Sorry, I was looking in the chat to see if folks were saying what this was. But yeah, great. Here's the next paragraph. The instant the timer starts ticking downwards, my eyes dart left and right. 60, 59, 59. Any of the various items meticulously placed around the treehouse's setting could serve as a vital puzzle piece. My analytical mind not only helps plan my getaway in an escape room, but also enables me to look after my community. Living in Chicago's South Side, but attending a school near downtown, let me witness firsthand the disparities regarding funding and profitability between startups created by minorities in my predominantly African American community and non-minorities in the financial district. All right, let me know in the chat real quick, what values do y'all see in this paragraph? Curious. Y'all spot any? What do you see? Yeah, there's something about financial equity. Yeah, there's the analytical mind. Empathy, great. Community, connection to community. Social justice. Yeah, y'all are on this. Yeah, totally. And notice the variety of values that y'all are coming up with. That tells me this is a good, well-written piece because there are all these values that we can project onto this. Okay, so check out, let's just look at it one more time. My analytical mind, which she's connecting back to her topic, escape rooms, not only helps me with escape rooms, but helps me in my community. So here's another value. So there's analytical mind, and then she connects it to community. And this is where it's like a great time to weave in an extracurricular activity after you've named the value, the thing that's important to you. So quick pro tip, after you've named the value, give us a little insight into how you connect to this value. So in this case, in particular, she's talking about a problem that she's seeing, some disparities. And she's like, there's an issue here. This observation, she says next, prompted me to develop an entrepreneurship program. So there's another value that she's showing initiative. Yeah, one of those admission nutrients that introduces Black girls to resources needed to create their own businesses. So there's like helping others as well. Being Black is a substantial part of my identity, so it's important for me to see others of a similar complexion in a position to make a difference. I strive to make others feel represented, and my ability to analyze situations to create opportunities allows me to do this. Yes, there's like such a triumphant, like, I just love craft-wise that she's bringing it back to the so what. So why does this matter? So what? She says, I strive to make others feel represented, and my ability to analyze situations to create opportunities allows me to do this. And it just kind of like cinches the whole thing. It kind of brings it all together. So we see values. We're getting a little bit of insight into why she's done this, developed this program that she probably mentioned in her activities list, and it's well crafted. You don't, by the way, need to have all these qualities in every paragraph. I don't see, is there vulnerability? Maybe. Vulnerability in the sense of like sharing something personal about your identity. I guess that's vulnerable, but you don't need to have all of these qualities in every single paragraph. All right, next one. This is the next paragraph. The door to a second room pops open. 3628, 3627. Escape rooms spark a sense of curiosity, new value, that I couldn't imagine gaining elsewhere. Upon entering the Wizard of Oz, another escape room, I'm left wondering how the trees placed before me are programmed to blink in Morse code. This curiosity, you know what she's going to do here, right? Extends into other aspects of my life, leading me to question, for example, how Bernoulli's principle permits objects to levitate through air currents despite seemingly unbalanced forces, or what the greatest possible length for a straw is. After dragging a tube-like model up 3 flights of stairs, I can confidently say 32 feet. The creative facet of escape rooms also triggers my innovative spirit. Though time-consuming, I enjoy scouring leftover craft supplies to find popsicle sticks for my latest Rube Goldberg machine because it allows me to experiment, more values, with creating systems to solve everyday tasks. So what? Give us the insight. So what is she leading up to here? By letting my thoughts run wild and engaging in clever endeavors, I gain a feeling of satisfaction, knowing that someday the product of my doing will impact a project expanding beyond myself. Can you guess what she's going to be or do in the future? You don't have to name your major in your essay, but if you had to guess, there we go. Rihanna got it. Yeah, she's totally going to be engineer. Yep. Yeah, she mentions that again. Yeah. And you notice how beautifully organized this is? So what I love about this essay is how the topic is obviously escape rooms. Yeah. But there's something about the way that she's relating this topic. I'm sorry, for some reason it's my my little screen is captured, but hopefully this will it'll undo. Let me do this actually. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna move my slideshow to a different screen. There we go. All right, stand by. Okay, let me see. There we go. So one of the things I notice and I love about this is that while she's talking about different sides of herself, she keeps coming back to escape rooms, right? Her main topic, which I think is so smart. I think just the way that she's handling this is just beautiful. So notice in the next, actually, let me point out a couple more things from this last paragraph, where she mentions, for instance, the creative facet of escape rooms also triggers my innovative spirit. So there's another value, creativity and innovation. So taking things and doing new things with them. And then she's giving examples of how this quality, creativity, innovation manifests in other areas of her life. Yeah. So she gives examples of that with her Rube Goldberg machine. And then there's also like a little dropping of a hint of like, here's the thing I'm going to do in the future. Again, don't have to do this, but it's kind of nice in case the reader's wondering, well, what is this? Where is this leading? Now, check this paragraph out. I don't always escape the rooms in time. Structural thing that she's doing at the starts of her paragraph, she keeps coming back to escape rooms so that she reminds the reader, hey, this is my main topic. The museum heist is an example. Ultimately, the challenge of squirming through vents and deactivating lasers triumphed over me. Yet, I left grateful knowing I'd be better prepared for our next puzzle. And I've worked hard to not let other setbacks deter me. Great example. I was crushed after finding out I didn't advance to nationals in my freshman year of Business Professionals of America. But after tweaking my presentation with the feedback provided, I emerged stronger the following year, earning second place. I approach every situation eager to participate, willing to fail, and determined to grow because each experience enables me to seek improved solutions moving forward. I've learned that success comes with roadblocks, but outcomes are even more satisfying with a story to tell. I love that. So this is just another great example. This is a nice example of vulnerability, but also the quality of like being able to learn from, things that have gone wrong. And she gives this great example. So beyond not being able to escape rooms, because if it was just about escape rooms, we'd be kind of like, this girl, like all she does is escape rooms. She's doing a great job of connecting the escape room thing to a particular value and then connecting the value to specific examples. Sorry, there's like a big computer or something just turned on. Oh no, that's air. That's like the air conditioning. It's really loud. Okay. So these examples here not only show us how she makes the best of situations where she's feeling stuck or if she's failed, but at the end, she says she's able to see the silver lining because she says that success comes with roadblocks, but outcomes are even more satisfying with a story to tell. So it shows us the kind of person that she is and that she's going to be when, difficult things come up in her life. So just beautiful. Now, and we're going to get to the last paragraph in a second, but just notice how much more interesting this is than if she had just been like, here are some facts about me. Like, I'm curious and I know how to like overcome, failure or make the best of a bad situation. If she just like literally explicitly said those things, we'd be like, okay, cool to learn these things about you, but it's a little direct. And so there's something that she's done here where she's used this, I call it a focusing lens or a theme of escape rooms to connect lots of different parts of herself. And it's adding a little bit of complexity. And I think it's just much more interesting than just relaying it sort of in a straightforward way or telling about, for example, sometimes students will be like a typical day in the life, which is just, in many cases, not as interesting. Here's her last paragraph. I'm ready to enter the next stage of my life as an engineer with the insights that escape rooms have given me. Maybe I am prepared to have the fate of the world in my hands after all. So bringing it back full circle, so lovely. Here's my question for you. Did you spot these qualities at all? Intellectual curiosity, service to others. I mentioned that one. Leadership or initiative, collaboration, consistent engagement. Any thoughts about how she's relating these in the essay or like specific moments that stood out to you? What do you notice? Qualities? Yeah. Oh, great point. So somebody's pointing out how collaboration is integral to escape rooms. Yeah. Consistent engagement, like FBLA. Yep. Initiative, taking your family to the escape rooms. Yep. And also, yeah, working with family in escape rooms. Yeah, totally. Intellectual curiosity with, yeah, there's so many examples of that, but there's both escape rooms and then when she's talking about, her interest in science and physics. Great. Great. Yeah, for me, I mean, I think collaboration could have come through a little bit more explicitly in this essay. I think it would have been nice if she'd been like, and here's how I work with others, because I see the way she's working, but we definitely see some of these others. Okay, some takeaways for this personal statement. What's she doing well that's working that you can learn from? Number one, brainstorming an uncommon topic, right? Or if you do choose a common topic, an uncommon approach to the topic. So for instance, if you're going to write about Boy Scouts, which a lot of people write about, how could you make your involvement in Boy Scouts different? There's a whole separate essay on that, which I'm not going to get into today. Can you raise a question at the start? Can you intrigue us, draw us in? Next, are there values that you're showing? And specifically, how do those values, like curiosity, like interest in social justice, how do they manifest elsewhere in your life? So that we know that you're not just curious about escape rooms, but that you're curious about other things as well. Notice how those values, like things like community, even entrepreneurship, are given with specific examples. So she's not just like, community is important to me. She's giving like specific examples of here's what community looks like in my life and why it's important to me. And that's where those insights come in. And notice that at the ends of each of her paragraphs, she's including some of those insights. She's including like basically so what moments, which is just a great thing. Like when you're writing paragraphs, ask yourself at the end of the paragraph, like, is there a so what moment? Is there something that I can include here that gives the reader a sense of why I'm sharing this about myself? Okay. We're going to brainstorm your own topic. If you joined late, we're going to be doing a little giveaway at the end of this session. So I'm going to have Diana, who's our moderator, share in the chat the form. Filling out the form will give you a chance I'm going to give away a couple books, spots in my summer courses, and some AirPods, which we've never done, but we thought, let's just do that because that sounds fun. All right, so some of you are filling that out. Most of you have already filled it out probably and can get right into the brainstorming here. So yes, apologies. For some of you, you're going to be multitasking, but also we're sharing the slides out. All right, so I'm going to share with you two exercises that are part of 8 that I do on my courses. And I want to just give you a little sort of like little something to chew on. We can't go through all of them because we don't have time today. But the first exercise goes like this. We're going to take a minute here, literally a minute, and I want you to make a list of random things that you love. So for instance, I love deep breaths. I love Thai food. I love deep questions. I love talking to strangers. I love the color blue on this slide right here. I love working with Tom and Diana. I love teaching. I love, etc. And I would just keep going. So here's what I'd love for y'all to do. I'm going to set a minute timer on my phone. And I would love for y'all to just make a list somewhere. You can do this writing or you can do this, typing. But I'm going to set a timer for 1 minute. And I want you to make a list of things that you love. Quantity is as important as quality here. All right. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn the chat off for just a couple minutes because I want you to be able to focus in on these exercises. So thanks, Diana, for turning off the chat. And I want to give you a minute. I'm going to give you actually 75 seconds. All right. Make a list of things that you know a lot of, or sorry, that you love. First, we'll do I love. 3, 2, 1, go. What do you love? Make a list. You just joined us and you're wondering why it's all quiet. We're making a list for 1 minute of things that we love because it's going to help you with your college essays. All right, time's up. All right, part two. I want you to make a list of things that you know a lot about. Okay, so I know a lot about, I mentioned games, college essays. I know a lot about theater. I know a lot about how the voice makes sound. I know a lot about productivity. I know a lot about, etc. All right. So same deal. Set a timer. Make a list of things. And by a lot, you can kind of hold that lightly. Like what's some stuff that if you were to talk to somebody in a social situation and they were like, "Oh, I'm really into this thing," you would be like, "Oh, we should talk." Okay. So it's like stuff that you spend a lot of time thinking about. And again, we're looking for something that's like potentially we're looking for elastic stuff, but maybe uncommon stuff. All right. So niche is great. All right, three, two, one, go. Make a list of things that you know a lot about. They don't all have to be weird, but if you have some niche ones, great. About 15 seconds. What else do you know a lot about? All right, time's up. Now, I know that seems like a simple exercise, but it could very well be, I mean, and this is how the student came up with the escape rooms idea, that something that you know a lot about or that you love could be something that you connect to like a bunch of different values, and that ends up being your essay topic. Okay. Another exercise that I love, and these are sometimes overlapped, which I'll share about in a little bit, is this roles and identities exercise. So here's the roles and identities list. And the way it works is essentially take a look at this list, and I'd love for you to pick, let's say, 10 different roles and identities that you connect with from this list. And we'll put the link in the chat. But what are the 10 roles and identities that you connect with today? And we'll say, like, you've got like 2 minutes to do this. And if there's some role or identity that you connect with that's not listed here, you can check it out. You can list it here at the bottom. All right. Now, I don't even give you quite enough time, maybe, to find 10. Maybe you found 10. But of these 10, I want you to pick like a top five. And of these five, I want you to make them somewhat different. In fact, it'll probably be easier actually if we do this. Let's move down to a top three and make sure the three are clearly different. So if two of them kind of overlap, just pick the one that you feel like is best representative of that side of you. And let's pick like a top three list. So maybe, for instance, you're like, I'm a catalyst because I don't know, have projects that I'm always starting, and I love to start projects. But I'm also an experimenter. So once I've started those projects, I like, actually, you know what? Catalyst and experimenter are kind of similar because I kind of start things and I try stuff. Okay. So maybe you decide catalyst represents both of those. But I'm also a philosopher, and that shows the whole other side of you. So see if you can pick three that you feel demonstrate different sides of you. Okay. So what does this have to do with things that you love and know? Could it be that something that you love or know a lot about, like, I don't know, escape rooms? I'm not literally saying you should write about escape rooms, but escape rooms could be a way for you to show all of these different sides of yourself. Because ultimately, what colleges are looking for is who's coming onto our campus. They don't care about your love for whatever the thing is. I mean, it's not that they don't care, but what they're mostly looking at is who are we going to be getting when you come onto campus? So could you find something, for instance, and this is just one of like seven different ways to write a personal statement. Arguably, there are like 12, but on my course, I'm going to talk about seven, probably eight. But are there ways that you could show these different roles and identities so that by the time I get to the end of your essay, for example, like the escape rooms essay, I go, oh, this is a student who's an activist. This is a student who's an amplifier. You know, she amplifies others' voices. She's also somebody who's an executor. When she says she's going to do a thing, she's like, yeah, she's going to be like getting the thing done. She's also somebody who's probably an organizer. So part of what you're trying to do with your specific examples is to show these different sides of yourself. And that's how these two exercises can connect. The other advantage of this is you can use these roles and identities to think about who you want to show yourself to be on the entire application. So let's say, for instance, your realist side doesn't really make its way into your personal statement, but it could be that you bring that side to a supplemental essay or to some other part of your application. So these are two exercises that I really love just to kind of get your brain going about what's the kind of stuff that could go into my essay. Once you've done this, I have an exercise. We won't do it today just for the sake of time because we got about 15 minutes left. But the next exercise is to take whatever the thing is. So it could be, let's say, something that you know or love about, something you love or know a lot about, or you've got some roles and identities that you want to show and ask yourself, what are the values that I could show through that side of myself? So, for instance, let's say you decided you want to, I'll just use board games because I keep talking about them. What are some values that I want to show? Because that's what colleges care about. So, if I were writing about board games, for instance, I could show my creativity. I could show my knowledge. I could show my commitment to inclusion. I could show my curiosity. I'm always trying to think about how do we make this game better? How do we improve it? It drives my daughter crazy. But it's a great way for me to show lots of different values. And chances are, if your topic, if you're thinking of a lot of different values that you could show through your topic, that's probably going to be a pretty elastic topic for you. So anyway, and the other thing I'll say about this is that the values exercise is going to be another great one. If you just pick 10 values that you want to show in your application, to then look at the end of your application and go, okay, did I show these different sides of myself or not so much? And this is the values list, which if you want, you can screenshot, but you can also just use the link that Diana put in the chat because it's got the whole values list as a PDF. Okay, montage structure isn't the only structure. So I mentioned, yes, you could write about, a theme like this, but if you wanted to write about a challenge, you could totally go that path. And if you do that, a couple tips. So first of all, if you're writing about challenges, I would keep the challenges and how they impacted you to like the first third of the essay, because colleges are going to be a little bit more interested in what you did about it, like what you did to overcome the challenge, and then what you learned from the experience. So challenges and effects, probably the first couple hundred words. What you did about it, the middle third of the essay, a couple hundred words. And then what you learned through the experience is the final couple hundred words. So these are 600, 650 words, probably about 200 to each of these. And this is kind of, yes, that hero's journey story where where like something happens and there's like some ordeals that you go into sort of the depths of the darkness and then learn some stuff, i.e. the rewards, and you come home with new gifts, as it were. There's an exercise that Diana will put in the chat called the feelings and needs exercise. And the way it works, it takes about 20, I would say 25 minutes to do it. But you basically kind of chart out challenges that you've experienced, how they impacted you, how you felt about it, and what you needed. And then you think about what you did and the lessons and values that you learned. So here are some questions that you can ask through that exercise. This is all linked in the link that Diana's sharing. But if you face challenges in your life, I would say spend 20 minutes of this exercise sometime in the coming couple weeks and see if there's a story here, because it's a pretty good way of testing to see if there's something here that you might want to share in your application. Now, sometimes students ask at this point, can I weave in challenges to my personal statement in terms of if I'm writing a montage? And the answer is absolutely. We don't have time to get into that. That's kind of what I call a hybrid structure. But yes, you could be writing a montage on escape rooms or something, and you could mention a challenge, what you did, how you overcame it in like one of the paragraphs if you wanted to. In that exercise that Diana linked, there's this list of feelings and needs, and it's a great way of sort of processing whatever that experience was and how it impacted you. Here's an example essay. I'll share it in the follow-up slides. I'm not going to go through it today, but it was a student who faced some extraordinary challenges. And as a result, there was financial challenges at home. He had to sort of take care of his little brother a little bit more. And he found out he was undocumented on top of it all. So as a result, what did he do about it? He started taking ownership and control of his life, started, teaching himself social skills and learning how to fix things, and even got a job. And as a result, his grades went up. He started getting involved more in school, even in some leadership opportunities. And in the end here, the spoiler alert, but he realizes that he's got so much that he still wants to explore, and he feels really, proud of it all. And he sort of lands on this value of not just doing things because he has to, but because he chooses to. And one of his core values was autonomy. So if you want, you can check out that whole essay in the follow-up when we share the slides. There's also, if you search what had to be done college essay guy, you'll find this slide, or this essay, but you'll see that he basically is able to weave in the elements of that feelings and needs exercise into this essay in a really, really beautiful way. And this is a student that ended up also at a selective school, student that I worked with a few years ago. Okay, we're 10 minutes away, which is perfect, exactly where I wanted to be. A reminder that in a few minutes, we're going to give away a bunch of stuff. And a reminder that on Thursday, we're going to get into not just the personal statement, but everything else, like the other parts of the application that you'll need to create. That one, Tom's going to be leading, and I'm going to be in the chat answering questions. So hopefully you'll be there. See you, if so, in 47 hours. We're going to talk about supplemental essays, which are all the additional essays that colleges require. A little bit about the activities list, which is like your brag sheet. What's that additional information section? What goes there? They changed that this year a little bit. And then we're going to walk through a little bit of the escape rooms application so you can see the rest of it. Okay, let me tell you just briefly about my courses that are coming up. And one's coming up in a month, how to write an outstanding personal statement. I'm just going to show you the landing page, and Diana will share this in the chat as well. But essentially, it's a series of live sessions that happen once a week for 4 weeks. And the goal of this is for you to brainstorm, write, and revise an outstanding personal statement and be basically done with your personal statement, or close to done, hopefully, in a month. And you might be like, a month? That seems like a lot of time. Trust me, it's time well spent, because there's just a lot that sort of needs to happen when you're doing the ideating, even the outlining and the drafting. Sometimes students jump into writing, but if you're writing on an idea that's like just okay, and you don't have all the stuff, it can be like not ideal. So I'll show you how to brainstorm. I'll give you more exercises to brainstorm. I'm going to talk to you about how do you outline the personal statement in a way that's going to set you up to like essentially be able to write it a little bit faster. I've got 7 different montage paths, different ways of writing this based on past successful essays. I'm going to talk to you about how do you really draw the reader in to the story? How do you up-level your paragraphs? So, that escape rooms essay didn't look like that in the first draft. The student went through like 10 drafts over the course of like the 4 weeks. How do you make sure your essay flows? I'm going to talk a lot about transitions. And then I'm reviewing essays live throughout the whole course. Again, it takes place over a month. And it's fun. We usually do like an hour and a half of like session and then 30 minutes or more of Q&A. And then I'll show you how to refine it. How do you know it's like actually done? And part of what I'm going to share also is what I call my choose your own adventure essay tool. And that I'll show you what it looks like. Essentially, this is the choose your own adventure essay tool. It's got all the aspects of pretty much any question that you would have. Let me just show you the table of contents really quick. Let's see, here it is. It's an FAQ. It's got pretty much, everything, whether you're writing a montage or a narrative, it's going to answer pretty much all the questions that you have. How do you bring more insight into your essay? And how do you find a great ending? And you'll get access to that as well. What else? Oh, we do one-on-one support if that's something that you're interested in. You can find out about that on this page as well. And again, if you can't afford one-on-one support, we've got our Match Lighters program. What else? Is there anything else I want you to know? Lots of video. Oh yeah, a lot of the stuff has video lessons as well, if you're interested in that. That's part one. That's the 26th to July 17th. Part two is creating your college application. And this is what we're going to talk a little bit about on Thursday. But essentially, they kind of roll right into one another. We start with thinking big picture about your application. What are the different parts of yourself that you want to show now that you know what your personal statement is? Because we'll have done the personal statement already. And then we go, okay, activities list, additional info, why us essay. The why us essay is like why you want to attend a particular school, which is a really popular one. And then I'm going to get into I'm going to basically cover the most popular supplemental essays and take questions on any of the other supplemental essays that you're working on, because we've structured the course so that the supplemental essays release on August 1st usually. And so as your essays are releasing and you're able to like figure out what you're working on, it's like right away, I'll help you figure out how to organize them, how to save yourself a bunch of time in the process. One of the things I'm going to talk to you about is basically organizing all of your essays into, like I've got a simple way of organizing them with an essay tracker and to overlap them so that you can write the same essay for a few different schools. But yeah, we've got this in the chat as well. It's also 90-minute sessions. It's over 4 weeks. Just a ton of content. Like, I think we have like more than 30 plus example essays in each of the courses. 36, just a whole bunch of different essays. So yeah, that's that. I think this is the best year we've done this ever, because not only are we doing like weekly live sessions and you've got the videos and stuff, including the access to the Choose Your Own Adventure tool, but part of it is I've sort of over the last couple of years, I've been revamping a little bit of the content, and I've made it in terms of the brainstorming exercises. Some of the stuff is going to be much more dialed in particular with the supplemental essays than ever before. So including all that, which last year, by the way, we used to charge $297 each for the courses. We've dropped the price, which I'll share with you about in a second. We've got new techniques and some of the new exercises for brainstorming. And we've also added a couple additional essay review sessions with my coaches. So I've got a team of coaches that works with me with students one-on-one. We're going to have sessions where you can actually ask them questions like, is this a good topic or not? And get feedback. Not everybody, because it's going to be a few hundred people on the course, is going to get like one-on-one feedback. But what we usually do is we review those essays. And I'm reviewing essays and ideas pretty much on every session, but we review them in such a way that there are lessons that anybody who's watching can learn. So if you're one of the first 100 people that signs up for it, there's going to be an additional, like a bonus session, which is going to be an inside college admission session with Tom and with me. It's sort of like a private, smaller session. And we're going to cover some of like the nooks and crannies and stuff that I don't have a chance to get into on the course. And that should be fun. And then we're also going to have, and this is like sort of all the things, besides everything that I talked about, rather than charge, for both the course. Last year we did both courses separately. We're dropping the course by like the price to like a quarter, I think by 25%. And get this, we've got pay what you can spots. So if you are a low income student, there's a little form that you can check the box and say, hey, I can't afford this price. I want to pay, and you basically can pay less. You need to like verify that you are a low income student. But the cost for both of these is $450. Again, with pay what you can spots. And if you sign up now, like literally now, which we're going to put a link to it in the chat, you'll get 20% off. So that drops it down to like $360. And we're going to have this good until there's a coupon code. It's webinar20. If you enter webinar20 at the checkout, and that code is going to be good through Friday. So for the next couple days, like basically to right before the start of the weekend. midnight by Friday. So hopefully some of y'all will join us. I'd love to have y'all on those sessions. What else? What else? It's time for Q&A, I think. So we're gonna do, do we do the Q&A and then the giveaways? I think we've done Q&A kind of throughout. Let's go ahead and do the giveaways. Does that seem good, Tom?
Yeah.
Do the giveaways. Diana, let's do this. Let's give away a few books. In fact, let's just do this randomly because why not? We've got a bunch of, and we'll give you one more chance. Actually, you know what? I've already given people 2 chances and we're almost at time. So let's just go ahead and give stuff away. So Diana, if you wouldn't mind in the chat, would you mind picking, let's say, I don't know, let's pick of today, let's pick the 10th person who filled it out, and the 15th and the 20th. I'm just randomly picking those. And each of these folks are going to get a free copy of my book, College Admission Essentials. So we'll give Diana a minute to figure that out. So the 10th, 15th, and 20th people who filled out the form at the start of the webinar, well, I'm just like, this is like taking caller 10, are going to get free books. Up next, we're going to give away 2 spots in the course. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so Jessica, and you, by the way, you've got to be present to win. So I don't know. I guess we could turn on the chat. You know what? Let's just do this because rather than I think the chat would just be crazy if we turned it on right now. So we're actually just Diana is not gonna be turning on the chat. Oh my God, I love that. That's what Diana said that in the key of boundaries. So we are actually just gonna be emailing folks. Jessica is here. Yay, awesome. Okay. So we're gonna do 10th, 15th, 20th, and then we're gonna give away 2 spots in the course. And for those spots, let's pick, I don't know, Diana, let's pick like the 20th and 25th person. So whoever those people were, they're going to get free spots in the summer courses. So far, Vidya, congratulations. You're going to get, we'll email you, the team will email you. Jessica, Vidya, and Taryn Casey, you're getting free books. Congratulations. And we're going to just email you and be like, what's your address? And then we'll just mail it to you. And then that was 10th, 15th, 20th. Let's go, Diana, with 25th and 30th people to fill out the form. They're going to get free spots in the course this summer.
So while Diana's doing that, I just wanted to draw your, oh, sorry, never mind. I think someone deleted that out.
Yeah, I was just going to,
the question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say a lot of the questions had to do in the chat with standardized testing and extracurricular activities, which I know the theme of the session was about personal statements. So I'm going to drop just 2 links in the chat that are about those 2 topics that are really comprehensive and robust and answer many of the questions that a lot of you had around those 2 things, testing and extracurriculars. And you can peruse those at your leisure.
Yeah. And we're going to share all the links, with all of y'all in the follow-up. So if, you can check those out there. But we got 30, we got Olivia, who is, yay, welcome, Olivia. I'm excited to see you on the course this summer. Congratulations. And then Chloe's going to be in it as well. Chloe, I'll see you this summer and hopefully some of y'all. And again, we've got the link in there in the chat if you want to join us. If you need to like go ask parent for, hey, can I take this course? Obviously go do that. But the 20% thing offer ends on Friday. All right, for the AirPods, because we're at time. Let's pick one of the folks who, how do we randomly pick this, Tom? How do we pick a random folk to
we maybe do the 47th person? The reason I picked that number is because it's a special number to Pomona College, my last admissions workplace. So fun fact, quirky tradition, lots of schools have these, but the 47th person, I can go and look into this too, Diana, if you'd like me to.
I love it. 47th person. Yeah, there's a fun little tradition there. If you Google 47 Pomona. There we go. Patrick, congratulations. You win AirPods. You'll get an email. Everybody, you'll get an email from our team here and we'll get your addresses and we'll see you. And hopefully, some of y'all will join this summer. So thanks. And thanks for being here. And Tom, thank you as ever for being an amazing co-host and support. And you'll have all the links afterwards. We'll follow up with things. And yeah, thanks, friends. Tom, anything else you want to say before we wrap?
Just that I really encourage all of you to come to part 2 on Thursday, because of course we want you to come to the course as well during the summer, but part 2 is where we're going to get into a lot of like beyond solely the personal statement, the rest of your application, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And we want to make sure you can do all these admission nutrients and qualities across the whole body of work. So looking forward to diving into that on Thursday with you all. And thanks for being here.
Thanks, y'all.
All right.
Appreciate you. Thanks again, Tom. Appreciate you. Thanks, Anna. You're the best.
Thank you.